Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency Benigno Aquino III, President of the Republic of the Philippines. Kindly take your seats. To deliver the Anti-Corruption Initiatives report, may we ask the Honorable Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales.
Your Excellency, President Benigno Aquino III, Honorable Senate President Franklin Rilon, Speaker Feliciano Belmonte, Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno, our esteemed development partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant morning. During the celebration of the International Anti-Corruption Day last December 9, we were urged at the Philippine Data Summit, participated by multi-sectors, to break the corruption chain. This call to action is by no means an easy task, but we were reminded that we are equipped with a powerful tool, the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. As of today, the convention had been ratified by 177 states, a clear recognition of its value as an impetus for a global and forceful movement against the scourge of corruption. It is reasonable to assume that 180 states will be parties to the convention in the 2016 to 2017 biennium. The deleterious effects on the countries and the environment were among the primary concerns raised during the International Anti-Corruption Day. Apropos is the revitalization by the Office of the Ombudsman of two specialized programs dealing with the same matters under the concept of a quick reaction team. One is the Environmental Ombudsman Program, which was revived last July 2012. The Environmental Ombudsman team handles complaints about violations of environmental laws involving public officials and employees. One related project in full swing is the Solid Waste Management Compliance Program, which monitors the local government units' compliance with the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000. The other is the Investment Ombudsman Program, which was launched in July last year. It aims to encourage local and foreign investments in the country and improve global competitiveness through prompt action on investors' grievances and speedy resolution of investors' complaints. Just recently, the Investment Ombudsman conducted a nationwide information campaign to ensure that the issuance of licenses and permits by the local government units at the beginning of this year and henceforth comply with their respective citizens' charters and the Anti-Red Tape Act of 2007. The Office of the Ombudsman is also spearheading the development of a 5-year national anti-corruption plan, which will cover not only the public sector, but also the private sector. With the help of our partners, we are now in the final stages of developing a framework which serves as a precursor to a strategic national anti-corruption plan that will extend past the current administration. On the international front, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime highlighted that out of all states parties under review, only 97 reports have so far been finalized, and that includes the submission by the Philippines. And we have this august body to thank for that accomplishment, kudos to the Presidential UNCAC Interagency Committee and the hard-working members from both the public and private sectors for a job well done. Moreover, the Implementation Review Group especially mentioned in its June 2015 report, the inclusivity with which the Philippines conducted the review, as well as the institutionalization of the State Conference as an annual mechanism to validate the country's compliance with the state's obligations. The group also cited the issuance by His Excellency last year of Executive Order number 171, which created the Presidential UNCAC Interagency Committee. For the information of this august body, the second review cycle was formally launched last month. Next year, we will commence with the drawing of lots to determine when the state's parties will undergo the second review. We may be chosen next year for this important undertaking or 4 years from now. It doesn't matter because we are always ready. We already have people and the mechanism in place, but more importantly, I believe that we are now more committed than ever to eradicate corruption. In fact, the Philippine delegation to last month's conference of states parties at St. Petersburg, Russia, attended the session already bearing copies of reports relative to the first and second review cycles. The Philippines' gains on the international front are perhaps matched only by our gains on the local front. Consider the Integrity Management Program, which His Excellency institutionalized through an executive order last year. It is shaping up to be a popular, convenient, and effective risk assessment tool. The Technical Working Group on the Integrity Management Program planned to roll out the program to 10 more agencies, in addition to the 5 pilot agencies, but another 10 agencies volunteered to undergo the program. At present, the pilot agencies are already implementing integrity measures and cascading the program to the regional offices. I just would like to commend the DOJ, DSWD, BIR, DPWH, and DOH for their commitment to the Integrity Management Program. The Office of the Ombudsman has been credited with having brought to court the most number of public officials and employees for graft and corrupt practices in recent years. During the first semester of this year alone, the Office of the Ombudsman disposed of 1,475 criminal cases, 8 forfeiture cases, and 1,456 administrative cases. The office posted a higher case disposition rate than the previous year. 30% of disposed criminal cases resulted in the filing of informations in court, and 24% of disposed administrative cases resulted in the imposition of penalties. A higher conviction rate in the Sandigan Bayan was also reported in the first semester of 2015 as compared to last year. The office also posted higher disposition rates in fact-finding and mediation cases. It has occurred to me that at one time or another, in these past few years, all the 3 branches of government, the Office of the Ombudsman, and a host of other government offices have all been thrust into the limelight and have undergone strict scrutiny, and I can say that our offices are all the better of it. For it. We have already laid the groundwork for a progressive Philippines. The next years will be crucial. They will be fraught with challenges. That is to be expected because the chain of corruption is fortified by corrupt people who act with impunity. But I believe that we are made of sterner stuff, and we are uncompromising and unyielding in the fight against corruption. I am confident that we can break the corruption chain. Thank you, and a pleasant morning again.
To deliver the response from the judiciary, the Honorable Maria Lourdes P. A. Sereno, Chief Justice of the Philippines.
His Excellency President Benigno Simeon C. Aquino, Senate President Trilon, Franklin Trilon, House Speaker Feliciano Belmonte, Ombudsman Conchita Carpi Morales, dignitaries, friends in government, and supporters in the private sector for the fight against corruption. Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank and congratulate all those present here who have worked hard in the development of the National Anti-Corruption Framework presented earlier. The fight against corruption may at times appear Sisyphean, but it is a fight that we cannot afford to lose for the sake of our nation's survival. The cost of corruption is simply too high, not only in monetary terms, but also on the toll it takes on our moral fiber as a people. Worldwide, it is estimated that the cost of corruption equals more than 5% of global GDP, or $2.6 trillion, with over $1 trillion paid in bribes each year. Hopefully, the adoption of the above-mentioned framework will prove to be a turning point in that fight, from which there will and can be no turning back. Let there be no doubt about the judiciary's commitment to this fight. The issue of corruption is one that we in the judiciary take with all seriousness, for it strikes at the core of our strength, the public trust and confidence in the judiciary. Our commitment to the rule of law requires that we ensure that only judges who are competent, ethical, and neutral are appointed to the bench. In this respect, the Judicial and Bar Council has made significant improvements in the process of selection and nomination of candidates to vacant posts in the judiciary. The JBC is putting together an intensified recruitment plan with improved selection criteria, more precise list of qualifications, including dramatic disclosure requirements, and a survey system on our judges' performance. Due to systemic improvements, the JBC was able to process 7,131 applications for only 109 positions. This compares to when I sat when the JBC was only able to process more than 1,000 applications, and even far higher than last year's processed 4,443 applications for 247 positions. That is in 213. The message is very clear. There is a very strong attraction to the judiciary with so many strong applicants, making the job of the JBC much more enjoyable, but definitely far tougher. While the judiciary remains firm in its resolve to weed out those from our ranks tainted with corruption, there is a long road ahead to make sure that once the corrupt judges are gone, corruption would no longer find an easy way into the system. We are therefore addressing areas that can be breeding grounds for corruption. First is the need to address delay, or the perception of undue delay in the processing of cases through a menu of remedies. Delay destroys the trust of the people in the judiciary. We have launched a continuous trial for criminal cases, currently being piloted in 52 regional trial courts and 6 metropolitan trial courts in Quezon City, Manila, and Makati. This program has set up a system to ensure compliance with existing rules, particularly on periods and timelines within which milestones should be achieved and court actions made until completion of the case. The objective is to finish an entire case within 6 months for simple cases, and for more difficult cases, no longer than 2 years. The system requires that all trial dates be agreed upon at pre-trial and held continuously, and that motions for postponement be prohibited unless for the most compelling reasons. It aims to eliminate the common perception that it takes an average of 5 to 7 years for a case to be resolved by lower courts. And I have been publicly speaking also about our electronic courts, or e-courts, an automated case management system for trial courts that promote efficiency in case processing and monitoring and transparency in court operations and records, and assures the integrity of records. That will again ensure that the public can believe that our system works. And allow me to give you a quick update on the e-courts, which I have to publicly acknowledge has been supported by our development partners and also by the administration, and for which I am grateful to the President and to the Senate and the House of Representatives. To date, we have functional e-courts in Quezon City, Angeles City, Lapu-Lapu City, Davao City, Cebu City, and would you believe it, Tacloban City. And Tacloban City has risen to show that the electronic system, the automated system, can work. By 2016, e-courts will be also rolled out in Makati, Manila, Pasig, and Mandaluyong. This means that by 2017, around 30% of total caseload of the Philippine courts will be processed through the e-court system. It reduces human intervention, particularly in critical steps in the judicial process, such as raffling of cases, assessment of filing fees, courts record management, tracking of significant case incidents, and court documents logging. The presiding judge, the executive judge, the court administrator, and eventually even the Chief Justice can monitor the developments of a case under an e-court system on a real-time basis. Sometime in the future, the public, other than those in Quezon City, could be given access to certain information through public kiosks. We have also put into place the automated hearing system, which is an offshoot of the e-court system. And it has transformed the courtrooms into an automated trial forum. Right after the hearing, the judge immediately prints out the court order, which gets served to the parties right there and then. And this is made possible because every activity in the court would have been captured electronically in real time. Minutes of the hearing, testimony taken, the marking of the evidence, the issuance of the writs, or other court processes, as well as all verbal orders issued by the judge. We save, for every such process, 2 months of delay for every incident, as we do away with snail mail, and the public is impressed with the transparency of the entire system. One judge even bought a screen for her courtroom at which the entire courtroom sees the order as it is being typed real time after it's printed out, immediately served. And of course, it has given rise to several incidents of selfies being taken with the automated orders being served. All these are part of the Electronic Information Systems Plan, or EISP, in which more than 20 software systems will be utilized to speed up adjudication, increase personal productivity, and improve case management. Estimated budget as of now of 3.9 billion for EISP, which is an entire enterprise platform, might be huge. But in the context of the fight against corruption, it is a mere pittance to ensure the rule of law. Of course, you're already aware of the judicial affidavit, which utilizes judicial affidavits in presenting testimonies of witnesses, and in many cases, it has already reduced trial time by half. The Quezon City practice guidelines in litigation could be rolled out soon in the rest of the NCJR, and hopefully nationwide. These innovative guidelines include limiting the length of pleadings, the kinds of motions that can be filed, the number of postponements, as well as implementing strict time frames and mandating judicial affidavits. We have also required some Quezon City pilot courts to implement Rules 22 and 24 of the Rules of Civil Procedure amended in order to enhance the effectiveness of preliminary conference and allow for more innovative techniques. Complementing the foregoing is the Justiciae project, and from 139 covered by this project, as of now, a total of 121,570 cases were physically inventoried. As of mid-2015, the number of pending cases in the said courts is 97,290, or a reduction of 24,280, or 20%, including the inflow. Our learnings from Justiciae paved the way for the plan to deploy 635 case decongestion officers nationwide who will be tasked to assist our overly burdened courts in managing and decongesting dockets. We have been continuing also our house cleaning of judicial misfits who tarnish the judiciary's reputation. In addition to the efficiencies I had earlier mentioned, of course, we have to show seriousness in the fight against corruption. This year alone, we have disciplined 36 judges and 116 court personnel for various offenses. In exercise of our administrative power over the bar, we have also disciplined 136 lawyers. Although we have acted on our own in one disciplinary case involving a Sandigan Bayan justice, which resulted in his removal from office, I continue to appeal to our people to come forward with their complaints and evidence to ensure that we have a bench and bar that adhere to the highest standards of ethics and professionalism. We in the Supreme Court cannot do this alone. We need your help and support. Getting rid of corruption is a shared responsibility, not just of the people in government, but of every member of society, because corruption affects us all. Even as the people demand a corruption-free government, the people should likewise be conscious that their own acts are crucial in ensuring that corrupt behavior is not reinforced. In the United States, there is a reminder everywhere about being vigilant about terrorism. If you see something, say something. But we should also have the same mindset about corruption. As a nation and as a people, if any one of us sees something, say something. Speak up and speak out. Be vigilant in protecting our democratic institutions from corruption that would rob it of its vitality. In ending, please accept the assurance of the judiciary of its resolve to remain a constant partner in our collective quest for transformation and good governance. Congratulations, maraming salamat, at mabuhay po tayong lahat.
We have two responses from the legislative branch. First, from the House of Representatives, the Honorable Feliciano R. Belmonte, House Speaker.
His Excellency, the President of the Philippines, Chief Justice Sereno, Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales, my colleague, Senate President Rilon, and distinguished guests. To us in the House of Representatives, eradicating corruption is essential in achieving inclusive growth in our own journey as a nation. We have been witness to the way corruption has whittled away the economic benefits we were supposed to enjoy from the fruits of our hard work. The experience of first world nations who have grappled with corruption, even as they are far more economically stable than the rest of us, confirm that corruption is a far insidious enemy than we have thought it to be. From day one, we have consistently and mindfully pursued a legislative agenda that is anchored on a growth strategy of good governance and the rule of law. The track record of the House, well, actually of Congress, whether in plenary or in committee, work bears this out. Our response to the challenge of instilling good governance in public administration started with the passage of the GOCC Governance Act, which ensures that the operations of government-owned and controlled corporations are carried out in a transparent, responsible, and accountable manner, thereby ensuring their financial viability and instilling fiscal discipline. Then we brought and faced the challenge of good governance squarely right in our own backyard by halting the practice of reenacting the budget. That's a really bad practice, incidentally, fraught with corruption, and passing the General Appropriations Act on time as required under the Constitution, and by ensuring that each peso appropriated is allocated to a specific program and project. While we continue to study ways to strengthen the office and authority of the Office of the Ombudsman, in the proposed 2016 budget that has been passed by both houses and will soon be confirmed by us on final reading, we have added 10% or an additional 180 million pesos to the Ombudsman's budget. We have also provided public sector workers relief by raising the tax exemption on their 13th month pay from the current 30,000 pesos based on the 1992 price index to 82,000 pesos. This will strengthen their purchasing power, which has severely been eroded by inflation. This and the proposed amendments to the Salary Standardization Act, which has been passed by the House and the Senate, will improve their competitive advantages vis-a-vis the private sector counterparts and hopefully curtail the incidence of corruption in the bureaucracy. We hope to agree on a common version. The passage of the Philippine Competition Act is a feather in our respective caps because it took the 16th Congress to hammer out an antitrust law that everyone in both the public and private sectors have sought for within the last 26 years and 8 Congresses. Republic Act Number 10667 prohibits and penalizes anti-competitive agreements, the abuse of dominant market or supply positions, and anti-competitive mergers, and addresses a whole range of sectors from power to water, telecommunications, broadband connectivity, and transportation. The recent enactment of the Tax Incentives Management and Transparency Act, TIMTA, we will now find out who is getting all of those subsidies, is another institutional and administrative reform that distinctively marks the performance of the House in promoting good governance. Through this landmark reform, the House endeavored to promote fiscal accountability, develop means to promptly measure the government's exposure in the tax incentives granted, and to monitor and review their economic impact, and thus optimize the social benefits expected from them. Finally, in response to this group's recognition for the enhancement of the capacity of law enforcement agencies in the investigation of graft and corruption cases and in actual enforcement, the House passed on third reading the National Bureau of Investigation Modernization Act, which has been transmitted to the Senate for its consideration. All of these good governance measures, however, cannot be expected to achieve a bigger dent in addressing corruption without complementary reforms that give teeth to the enforcement and prosecution of graft and corruption cases. In this area, the 16th Congress passed functional and structural reforms aimed at strengthening the Sandigan Bayan. Republic Act 10660, enacted early this year, is expected to speed up the deliberations and hearing of graft cases before it. We created 2 additional divisions with 3 members each, thereby increasing the number of justices from 15 to 21. We prescribed a new procedure for decisions by majority vote and transferred minor cases from down to the regional trial courts, which constitutes around 60% of the cases being filed and heard by the Sandigan Bayan. Also noteworthy is the measure extending the prescriptive period on graft cases from 15 to 30 years, which is now scheduled for bicameral conference committee discussions. In line with the UNCAC's priorities, the House has also passed the bill defining and penalizing influence peddling, which now awaits the concurrence of the Senate. Let me go on to the end. Indeed, that there are reforms that currently reflect the public's current aspirations, but which need to be given time to percolate, so to speak, and to be redefined by the benefit of both hindsight and introspection. These include the proposed Freedom of Information Act, the proposal to eradicate political dynasties, and the proposal to provide exceptions to the application of the Bank Secrecy Act. I'm aware that in all of these 3 proposals, certain sectors are grappling with these concepts that unfortunately challenge their respective philosophical beliefs. Certainly, we cannot fault a bank to be protective of valued clients whose business, its own survival is anchored on. nor those who feel a serious calling to serve in public office, but who think that an anti-dynasty law will unfairly trample on their rights to be voted upon. And many of us still believe that the Constitution has enough safeguards as well as the unchallenged mandate of ensuring protection to the right of the citizens to information, and that public officials and officers need witch hunting. But I also have confidence in the fact that certain concepts ultimately reach a point of traction. That point when ideals, purpose, and need all come together to create the momentum for change. As we have all become proud of the fact that after 26 years, a law has been passed to promote competition, to discourage and dismantle monopolies and prevent antitrust behavior, I look forward to your continued trust and meaningful support in formulating reforms that allow us to confidently pursue our aspirations for growth. And we are ready to do them. Magandang umaga po. Thank you very much.
For the response of the Senate of the Philippines, the Honorable Franklin M. Rizal, Senate President.
The first responsibility of a leader is to define reality. The last is to say thank you. In between, the leader is a servant. Your Excellency, as you look forward to July 1, 2016, that passage from Max De Pree, an American author of books on leadership, is most appropriate. Mr. President, when you assumed office on July 1, 2010, the culture of corruption was a reality that you had to confront. For your administration was swept into power on a promise of good governance. Kung walang korap, walang mahirap, was the mantra of your campaign platform. Today, as we convene the third and probably the last state conference on the UN Convention Against Corruption, we say thank you to all the people gathered here, particularly Chief Justice Sereno and Ombudsman Carpio Morales, for helping Your Excellency's administration walk through the difficult path of Daang Matuwid. Mr. President, for the past 5 years, 5 months and 15 days, you have been a servant leader of your bosses, the Filipino people, in the fight against corruption. And the 15th and the 16th Congresses supported you in your reform agenda on good governance. Let me therefore take this opportunity to briefly enumerate the significant laws we enacted to promote transparency and accountability, many of those already mentioned by my friend and colleague, Speaker Sonny Belmonte. The GOCC Governance Act made state-owned enterprises instruments of national progress instead of milking cows of abusive and corrupt GOCC officials. Last year, 50 GOCCs remitted over 50 billion pesos as dividends, or 30 billion pesos as dividends to the national coffers. The amendments to the anti-money laundering law expanded the list of entities required to report transactions to the Anti-Money Laundering Council, or AMLC, and allowed courts to inquire and freeze bank accounts ex parte. Republic Act 10660 strengthened the functional and structural organization of the Sandigan Bayan by creating 2 new divisions and redefining its jurisdiction to hasten the resolution of cases in the anti-graft court. We urge Your Excellency, with all due respect, to already appoint the 6 new justices to the Sandigan Bayan to unclog the dockets of the present 5 divisions. To foster transparency and accountability in government transactions and the present system of granting fiscal incentives, your Congress enacted the Tax Incentive Management and Transparency Act, or the TIMTA. Last night, Mr. President, the Senate passed the Customs and Tariff Modernization Act, which will fully automate and make transparent customs procedure to curb smuggling and other illegal activities in our ports and airports. In 2013, smuggling deprived our government of an estimated 200 billion pesos in revenues. The CMTA, or the Customs and Tariff Modernization Act, was earlier enacted by the House of Representatives, and we will submit this measure for your Excellency's consideration and approval next month. To recall, Mr. President, the Senate passed the Freedom of Information Act last year. The Whistleblowers Act will be calendared for plenary debates shortly. Last night, we ratified the 2016 General Appropriations Act. For the 6th time under your administration, we enacted the budget on time and prevented the practice in the past administration where, because of a reenacted budget, the General Appropriations Act became a piggy bank of the Malacañan tenant. Mr. President, friends and fellow workers in government, the relentless pursuit of good governance in the past 5 years has yielded spectacular and positive results. We have restored the pride among our countrymen. We have changed the mindset of our bureaucracy. We now have the confidence of the international community. We leapfrogged 49 notches for the past 5 years, and 9 last year, 85 out of 175 countries, in the Corruption Perception Index surveys done by Transparency International. The Senate will never waver in its commitment to help lay the foundation for a healthy economy, create an environment marked by political stability and strong institutions, and pursue transparency and accountability. While we celebrate our gains, we must also commit to safeguard the reforms we have painstakingly put in place so that neither force nor personality can reverse these, even beyond 2016. We must ensure that the fruits of good governance will be enjoyed by this generation and the generations yet unborn. Thank you very much, and a pleasant day to all of you.
Thank you. His Excellency, this morning, at the onset of the program, the stakeholders signed the third State Conference resolution. May we ask the Honorable Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales to lead us in presenting to His Excellency the said signed resolution. To introduce the keynote speaker, the Honorable Benjamin Kagiwa, Secretary of Justice.
Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency Benigno S. Aquino III, President, Republic of the Philippines.
Gandang umaga po. Maupo tayo lahat. Senate President Franklin Ron, Speaker Feliciano Belmonte Jr., Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno, the Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales, members of the Cabinet present, Sandigan Bayan Justice Amparo Kabatay-Tang, Commissioner Kim Henares, Chairperson Mike Aguinaldo, Chair Alicia De La Rosa Bala, Congressman Neil Tupas Jr., development partners of UNCAC and civil society members, members of the UNCAC Interagency Committee, fellow workers of government, honored guests, mga minamahal ko pong kababayan, magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat. Kanina po nag-uusap kami ni Speaker at ni Senate President dito po sa entablado. Sabi po ni Senate President, sana magtira ka naman. So, dapat pala ako nakisama rin sa pakiusap sa kanila, natiran rin nila ako. Pribilehiyo yung maging huling tagapagsalita, pero problema rin ho, nasabi na yata lahat ng dapat sabihin ng mga nauna sa atin. Siguro magdidiin lang tayo sa talumpati natin dun sa mga resulta ng lahat ng pinagtulong-tulungan natin sa loob ng mga taong lumipas. As I near the final days of my term, it is becoming easier to fully witness the scope of the reforms undertaken by our administration and the stellar results our shared efforts have brought. Over the past 5 years and 5 months, we, together with the Filipino people, have transformed our country from the sick man of Asia into Asia's new darling. We have channeled our economic success into social services that make certain that our growth is inclusive, and we have begun to see the tangible impact of our long-term efforts to alleviate poverty. We can see this in the form of 1.4 million Filipino households, roughly equivalent to 7 million Filipinos lifted above the poverty line, as well as the lowest unemployment rate in a decade. All this is rooted in the battle cry of our administration that the Senate President has reminded us of: kung walang korap, walang mahirap. Where there is no corruption, there will be no poverty. Throughout our administration, we have stood by that promise with a view of empowering our people, showing them how it is to have a government that truly works for them. From day one, we worked to dismantle the culture of corruption, entitlement, and waste that defined the preceding decade. One of the first things we did was to buttress the idea that those in government are public servants, and that the only privileges we should enjoy are the ones that are also accorded to every single one of our fellow citizens. Perhaps the lowest lying fruit in this regard is how we go through traffic. We reminded the entitled few who chose to muscle their way through traffic by using sirens, or what we call duangwang, that only 5 people are authorized to use those sirens. I am one of those 5, and to set an example, I instructed my security detail not to use sirens and to wait when we have to wait, while encouraging the other 4 leaders to do the same. The message was clear. The days when a powerful few could lord it over the rest of our countrymen were over. We worked to eliminate corruption and institute transparency in every possible pocket of governance. One prominent example is how we fixed our budgeting system, going from one that was prone to leakage and corruption to zero-based budgeting. This is a system that requires government to review every single item in the budget to see which ones worked and which ones didn't. While it is true that this might perhaps be a more tedious method of doing things, it is more meticulous and gives way to far less wastage and manipulation by unscrupulous individuals, and rightfully so. After all, we are aware that we are not spending our personal money, but our people's hard-earned money. This is also the philosophy behind our bottom-up budgeting approach. We reached out to communities and considered them an integral part in the budgeting process because they know what they need more than anyone else. Since we began this approach in 2013, we have allotted it 48.9 billion pesos, funding nearly 40,000 projects along the way. And under our proposed budget for next year, this approach will receive 24.7 billion pesos to fund 14,326 projects. We also know that corruption flourishes only when people feel powerless against it and are thus unwilling to fight it. This is why we harnessed advances in technology to equip our countrymen with the tools they need to hold their leaders accountable. We put up websites called Budget ng Bayan and Pera ng Bayan, which translate to the people's budget and the people's money. Through these portals, any Filipino, through an internet connection, can peruse how the national government is spending their money and report individuals they suspect of corruption. This philosophy also drove our movement to abolish a culture of entitlement in government-owned and controlled corporations, who in the past were able to award excessive bonuses to themselves, even during years when they operate at substantial losses. Through the help of our allies in the legislature, particularly Senate President Frank Rilon and then Congressman Junabaya, as well as the excellent work of Finance Secretary Cesar Purisima, we passed a bill that professionalized how our GOCCs go about their business. The numbers speak for themselves. From January 2001 to June 2010, GOCCs turned over 84.18 billion pesos in dividends. From July 2010 to June 2015, we collected 131.86 billion. Imagine that while we have only 6 years in office and while we have abolished, privatized, or deactivated non-performing GOCCs, we are what our predecessors good economics. Of course, maximizing efficiencies through prudent spending is just one part of any anti-corruption campaign. Justice must also be served to those who have erred. I am proud to say that during our time in office, we have made no exceptions. We have gone after all those accused of corruption, regardless of their resources or their influence. We removed from office a Chief Justice who failed to declare 98% of his assets in his statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth, which is required by the very Constitution he swore and failed to uphold. We filed plunder and graft cases against the former president, who is now under hospital arrest. We also filed cases against prominent senators and former heads of government agencies and corporations, all of whom were allegedly involved in a scam of massive proportions. Might I note that at one point, all these individuals were once considered untouchable by many. Our focus, however, was not simply on the high-profile cases. Our goal has been to combat corruption throughout the bureaucracy and Philippine society at large. This is why, through 3 targeted programs, namely the Revenue Integrity Protection Services, RIPS, the Run After the Smugglers, RATS, and Run After Tax Evaders, or RATE, we have filed a total of 736 cases between July 2010 and September of 2015. This culture of integrity and accountability we have fostered has certainly borne fruit. We have rehabilitated our image in the international community, thereby reclaiming our national pride. During our time in office, we have improved our ranking in surveys that measure corruption, as already mentioned by the Senate President, but if you will allow me, let me repeat. Transparency International has bumped us up 49 places in its Corruption Perception Index, while the Heritage Foundation has bumped us up 48 places in terms of freedom from corruption, which is part of its Economic Freedom Index. It has also encouraged even more people to get involved in the drive against corruption. In fact, just last week, I spoke at an event called the Integrity Summit, where individuals from the private sector gathered to share their ideas on how to fight corruption and how to build systems of integrity. In fact, this group has an initiative called the Integrity Pledge, the signatories of which commit to exercise zero tolerance for corruption. To date, they have gathered over 3,000 signatories and are targeting 10,000 by 2017. And I am told that they are ahead of schedule. Indeed, it is events like those, as well as the one we are holding today, that allow me to be even more optimistic that moving forward, our countrymen will make certain that like-minded people are voted into office and that those who wish to bring back the old broken status quo will be held to account. They show that our society is far more committed to fighting corruption than ever before, that it is a fight we are all engaged in wholeheartedly. The results of our all-out campaign against corruption is manifested in an empowered government with a greater capacity to invest in its people. We can see it in the 4.4 million household beneficiaries of our conditional cash transfer program who have additional resources to get by and can more ably send their children to school. We can see it in the education sector, which has managed to clear all our inherited backlogs in classroom, school seats, and textbooks, while at the same time upgrading our basic education system to be at par with global standards. We can see it in the health sector, where the bottom 40% of our population can now walk into any government hospital, show their PhilHealth card, and receive treatment free of charge. We can see it in every Filipino who can now look forward to a more secure future and who have regained control of their own destinies. Make no mistake, despite all these successes and despite the breadth of what the Filipino people have achieved in just 5 years and 5 months, I am aware that much more needs to be done. The first review cycle for the implementation of this convention is proof enough. I stand here today in commitment. Until the very last day of my term, we will strive to do even more against corruption and to uplift as many of our countrymen as possible. And we encourage our colleagues from the legislature and the judiciary to continue doing the same. What we must realize, however, is that much of our efforts hinges on the decisions we make as one country. In next year's elections, there is, of course, the crooked path, which will lead us back to the hopelessness of the past. And there is the straight path through which we can maintain, if not accelerate, the pace of reform. I have faith that with all that we have achieved together these past few years, our people will not choose to backslide, that they will choose officials with the integrity and the capabilities to build on our successes, so that we, as one Philippine nation, can give rise to a country we can be proud to bequeath to coming generations. Thank you. Good day.
Your Excellency, earlier the attendees requested permission for a photo opportunity. May we ask tables 1, 2, 3 to please go upstage, please?
Thank you very much.
Next will be tables 4, 6, 8, and 10.